ObamaCare is on a collision course with religious freedom. Hi, I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. Joining me is Matt Barber, vice president of Liberty Counsel Action. Matt, August 1 was the effective date for the HHS mandate. Now, that will actually go into effect over different times, depending upon the renewal year of the individual insurance policies. So it may be right away for some. It may be another year for some. But the bottom line is that August 1 set in motion the HHS mandate that will ultimately collide with religious freedom.
Yeah, and again, we've talked about this before, but here it is coming to fruition. This presidency, this administration continues its hostility toward religious freedom, and this is one of the most blatant acts I think we've seen in our lifetimes of a really an unconstitutional expression of hostility toward the First Amendment, toward the free exercise of religion. This has got to work its way through the courts. Still, there are multiple lawsuits in play, but to compel Christian organizations, to violate their conscience by providing abortifacients and other services that they, in many cases, find to be mortal sins, it just boggles the mind.
It really does boggle the mind. I don't recall a previous collision with religious liberty in the history of my lifetime where the government unashamedly and knowingly sets in motion a governmental mandate that collides with religious freedom. This is not just an inconvenience, but this is a choice that religious institutions are going to be making as to whether to follow the government's HHS mandate or violating their conscience and free exercise of religion, their religious convictions. Because under this mandate, these religious employers with very, very few exemptions, and the exemptions are essentially almost non-existent. They're very complicated when you read them, and any change in your policy eliminates any exemption anyway or non-coverage of certain aspects of your policy. So the exemptions are almost exemptions without an exemption.
Right.
Bottom line is
they're illusory.
Virtually every religious employer is going to be covered by this, self-insured or not self-insured, and it will require that these religious employers provide contraception coverage, sterilization, and abortifacient drugs, or the so-called morning after pill, the Ella and the Plan B. Those kinds of drugs will ultimately be required, or
which is abortion.
Those are abortion-inducing drugs. And obviously for many Roman Catholic institutions, the contraception requirement is going to collide with religious freedom. And for others, certainly the sterilization, but particularly the abortion, will ultimately have a wide objection among religious employers.
Yeah, and so it's little wonder that there have been over 24 lawsuits filed against this HHS mandate, one of the larger ones involving over 40 Catholic and Christian institutions around the country. And it's not at all surprising, but, we warned about this in 2009 with the way that Obamacare was constructed. It removed everything, all power from the other two branches of government, and gave the administration, the Department of Health and Human Services, carte blanche authority to unilaterally and arbitrarily impose these kinds of, unconstitutional mandates just because they want to. That poison pill was in place within Obamacare so that they could engage in their radical social engineering using this, just on the cusp of socialized medicine to do so. That's exactly what we warned about. That's exactly what we're seeing happening. These radical leftist policies are playing themselves out within Obamacare.
They really are. And is it any surprise when you have the President of the United States, Barack Obama, who is so radically committed to the pro-abortion agenda, who has as the head of the HHS, Kathleen Sebelius, who was the former governor of Kansas and a very close friend with Planned Parenthood and the late Dr. Tiller, and is very much in favor of and pushing the pro-abortion agenda, who now then is the person who brings this mandate out. And, they just brush it off as though it's no big deal. But this is a serious issue. We got a First Amendment to the United States Constitution, and we've got this mandate that is requiring religious employers to violate their core religious beliefs, to fund abortion, to fund something that is a core doctrine of a wide section of religious employers. The good news is there was a Colorado federal court a couple of weeks ago that issued an injunction against the HHS mandate on behalf of a Catholic-run company, the Hercules Company. And there's going to be more of those injunctions hopefully coming down the pipe.
That is good news, but that's just a drop of water in an ocean of trouble here, because that only, as you know, Matt, related to that one.
Yeah, just that one company. It doesn't apply to everyone else. That's exactly right. So thus far, there's only one out there, one injunction. It only applies to that one plaintiff employer. So that means that every other plaintiff, every other employer has to become a plaintiff and then file suit and get a similar injunction to be protected on that one aspect of Obamacare. Now, Liberty University and two private individuals, we filed suit on behalf of them. Liberty Counsel did. And that case went up to the U.S. Supreme Court. It's still pending there. And we're asking for the Supreme Court to send it back down to the Court of Appeals, because we do have, and we had from the very beginning when we filed the case, a free exercise complaint in our challenge, and that has never been ruled on. And so we're asking the court to send it back so we can ultimately get a ruling on our free exercise complaint with regards to what we argued is this forced funding of abortion violates our free exercise under the First Amendment.
Yeah, I can't believe we're at this point, Matt. George Orwell wrote the book 1984. He's a decade and a half too late, but he pretty much had it right. This secular socialist Obama administration, it really is jaw-dropping what they're doing here with this. They have taken the First Amendment, the United States Constitution, and don't even try to hide it. They have just trampled over it. But they have also said to religious employers, to people of faith, to Christian employers, we're also going to take your Bible, we're putting it underneath the Constitution. We're going to trample over both of those, and we're going to burn them both. That's what they have symbolically done here. They've told you, pastors, Christian organizations, forget about your Bible. You want to live out your faith, not in our secular socialist America. That is not the America our founding fathers envisioned, and this president is running afoul of the vision of our founding fathers, and he is running afoul of the law and the United States Constitution.
Well, it's absolutely stunning that we're in a situation like this, and I would have not imagined that we would have come to a point like this. And in fact, I was very sure that the Supreme Court would strike down Obamacare at least by a 5-4 decision across the board on the Commerce Clause and the Taxing and Spending Clause. And unfortunately, Chief Justice John Roberts switched his vote during the writing phase and ultimately came up with some convoluted, ahistorical, non-constitutional conclusion about upholding Obamacare under the Taxing and Spending Clause, which is absolutely unbelievable that if that were the case, if you had the power to do what they're doing under the Taxing and Spending Clause, that means that Congress could force you to do anything. And if you don't do it, then they just tax you for not doing something. They tax you for inactivity because you're not doing what they want you to do. And certainly the Constitution doesn't give Congress that kind of authority. But here we are, and Obamacare is still in existence. I think we need to obviously defund Obamacare. We need to repeal Obamacare, and we need to continue to fight, and Liberty Counsel will, against this HHS mandate in the courts.
You've said it over and over again, Matt. Elections matter. This is a perfect example of how and why elections matter. If you elect people into office who hold really a disdain for the United States Constitution and find it as an encumbrance, something they have to get around to further their radical secular socialist policies, this is what you're going to get. We have to vote for people who are going to repeal Obamacare, who are going to replace it with comprehensive, common sense health care reform legislation. Obamacare is not it. It has to be repealed.
Go to Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org. You can ask for our Patriots Handbook on Political Action for Pastors and Churches. It's our newest handbook, and it's part of our packet called Silence is Not an Option. You can order the Silence is Not an Option package. It is including a DVD where we talk about what pastors and churches can do with regards to political activity, candidates, as well as legislation or local or state or national laws. And we also have this booklet, and it is the booklet on what pastors and churches can do. Ask for the Silence is Not an Option, and make sure you get that out to your pastors, your church leaders, and other nonprofit leaders as well. Silence clearly at this stage of our history is not an option. Also, I would encourage you to go to Liberty Counsel's website and sign up if you're a woman who wants to go to an inspiring or an inspiring conference. The WIN conference, Women Impacting the Nation, is in Orlando, Florida. Go to lc.org. Sign up today.